Hello and welcome to AppCard's webinar today. My name is Andrew Ostroff. I'm our VP of Sales and Account Management, and I run our consulting services here out of our New York office. Looks like we're still waiting on a few more people to join us, so I am going to give everybody another 5 minutes before we get started, and then we'll jump right into it. So just hang on a few more minutes. Thanks. All right, looks like we are ready to get started here. A few more people have joined. Welcome to today's webinar, Lifecycle Marketing, a Retailer's Hidden Potential. So general instructions today on the webinar as you're logged in here. Please make sure that you've muted your computer audio or your phone if you haven't done so already. Down towards the bottom of the display on the screen here, which you should see on the right side of your screen today, there's a box that says enter a question for staff. At any point during the presentation today, during the webinar, please feel free to type in any questions that you may have about the content, the technology, or the platform itself. And at the end of the webinar, we'll be fielding those questions and providing some answers for you. A little bit about AppCard before we get into lifecycle marketing. AppCard is a marketing and rewards platform for retailers. Currently, we process 700 million transactions. 1 in 8 U.S. households has AppCard. We have over 20 million shoppers nationwide participating in the platform, with over 4,000 merchant locations using the AppCard platform in North America. 100 employees are currently employed by AppCard in 3 of our offices in Tel Aviv, Israel, Manhattan in New York City, and right outside of Miami down in Florida. So what is AppCard? AppCard is a marketing and rewards platform and technology company. The essential premise behind our platform is the ability for a business to take a marketing system that integrates many different aspects of a marketing strategy, including a CRM for customer information, a digital storefront that's shopper-facing on a mobile application. You'll have access to a business consultant / key account manager. You will be able to create custom programs from cashback to punch cards to point-based programs with different types of reward catalogs, from products to monetary discounts as well. We also employ our own neural network, which we have nicknamed nostalgically Pinky, after the 90s kids cartoon show Pinky and the Brain. This is an element of the marketing platform that allows you to automate customer communication based on an intelligent behavior recognition system. And we are fully integrated with Retail Pro, along with many other POS systems on the market today. Once again, I'll introduce myself. My name is Andrew Ostroff. I am our VP of Sales. I work out of the New York office here in Manhattan, down in the financial district. I also run our account management team here and our consulting departments. Now we're going to jump into the meat and potatoes of the presentation and the webinar today, Intro to Data-Driven Marketing and Segmentation. So I want to set the stage just a little bit with the atmosphere that we're all living in today. Today is all about data, and AppCard is a system that is all about data as well. One of the really interesting stats that we like to point out here is that 90% of the data in the world was created in the last 2 years. That's an amazing statistic when you think about it, and in 2 years from now, that will be doubled and doubled again. We process 2.5 quintillion bytes of data are created each day. This includes things like 40,000 Google searches per minute, 990,000 people swipe on Tinder looking for a date, 16 million text messages per second are sent in the United States, 103 million spam emails sent per minute as well. And on Amazon, $258,000 is spent on online purchases. 120 new LinkedIn profiles per minute as well, people updating where they're working, what their income levels are. It's great data there. Now, each one of those data points is valuable in and of itself, and you can tell a lot about a person from the different things that they're doing, from searching on the internet to creating profiles about their professional life. But it's like baking a cake to make it as useful as possible. It's when we start taking these data points and layering them and creating a profile about individuals that really allows us to get to know them, what they're likely to be interested in, and later on as a retailer, what they're likely to purchase next. So from Amazon, we can look at what books somebody buys, so we know that they're in purchases from Porsches and BMWs. And on data points from these 3 different places, we can tell what they're interested in and what their income level is. So we know that if we put a Porsche ad in front of a lawyer, there's a good chance that that person has the ability to make that purchase. And it's a really good ad to put in front of them. So data allows us to personalize content, and that's really what it's all about today. So 53% of retailers report increases over 10% on conversion rates, lead generation, and revenue when it comes to personalized content. It means that if the content is relevant to the person, based on their background and the profile that you're able to generate from all of these different data points, you have a 53% chance, or 10% chance higher of getting them to convert and make a purchase based on your ad content. 170% increase in purchase rate of personalized product recommendations compared to non-personalized product recommendations, which goes right into 35% of Amazon's revenue is generated through its personalized recommendation engine. That's that stuff at the bottom of Amazon, where you scroll to the bottom of the page and it says, people who bought this also bought these items. And they're recommending things to you based on a purchase that you've made that's similar to somebody else that you might have similar interests with. It's a big stat. 1 out of 3 purchases, 35% of the revenue that is generated by Amazon comes from personalized recommendations. 2% of brick and mortar stores have incorporated personalization channels. Offline customer data can fuel post-purchase sequences like loyalty campaigns and personalized messaging content. It's a number that we're trying to get up here at AppCard. From 2%, we'd love that to go way up. So moving into the next section here, we're going to talk a little bit about how all of this data is now at your fingertips as a retailer with a brick and mortar store. So what is the opportunity? Retail in the United States is a $5 trillion industry annually. In 2017, $450 billion was spent online. Now this is interesting, especially for those of you that have joined us today that own brick and mortar stores, brick and mortar retail. 90% of retail purchases still happen offline, and this is the opportunity here. 80% of retail purchases happen offline if you exclude car purchases, grocery, and gas stations. Now, we put that in there just to be fair with that statistic. This means that 80% of retail-related data is created in-store offline. So only 10% really of retail purchases are happening on the internet today. You know, we hear all of this talk about everything's going online, but in reality, most of the dollars are still going through brick and mortar locations. So to give you a couple of examples like that, retailers are growing. Even Amazon is actually still going in the direction trying to figure out what to do with a brick and mortar location. So these are a couple of examples of businesses that have been opening brick and mortar locations through 2018 and have plans to open additional locations all the way through 2020. You'll recognize some of these names as well. You've got Target opening 32 new brick and mortar locations last year. Now they're changing their strategy. Certainly, they're actually making smaller stores and they're trying to put them closer to colleges and universities, open up new markets for them. Dick's Sporting Goods opened 20 new locations in 2018, and Gap is actually planning to open 70 new locations by 2020, over the next year and a half at this point. So there's a huge push to continue going offline and figure out different ways to create that type of experience. And I think that's key to understanding how brick and mortar retail is actually going today. Right now, big companies like Amazon and some of the other big box retailers, what they're really doing at this point is they're trying to figure out how to redo the brick and mortar experience. And a lot of that is going to come down to personalization and creating an experience that's unique to each individual that comes into the brick and mortar store. And you're going to start seeing that a lot, especially with the purchase of Whole Foods. Some more personalization as shoppers are going in and doing their grocery shopping. Your businesses are also creating data at this point. What you're capturing and creating in your store is what products and services that you're selling. You're getting that in your POS system. Products and services returned, so you can actually see the rate at which people are returning specific types of products and services that you sell. Revenue by the minute, which is actually going to give you foot traffic and give you information about how you should staff your store, how many POS systems you may want to have, and what that foot traffic looks like. Frequency of purchase amongst your customers on an individual level. You can see which customers are coming in on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, a monthly basis, and a quarterly basis, how frequently those purchases are happening. Number of shoppers per day. Again, this is another way for you to determine what days of the week are best for you. Basket analysis information. And basket analysis is allowing you to see what items are most frequently purchased together, which down the line we can use to analyze what types of promotions and marketing messages you should be delivering to your customer base. Repurchase cycles. And when I talk about repurchase cycles, I mean if you sell shoes, running shoes for example, how often does somebody need to repurchase a pair of running shoes from you? What is the average time to the next purchase? And that's information that you're capturing and generating now. Average transaction value. How much money do each of your customers spend on average when they come into your store? That kind of information gives us a benchmark that we can meet or beat. Customer identity. Now you capture customer identity in a number of different ways, and really what you're looking for is unique identifiers here. So customer identity can be captured in someone's email address, can be captured from their phone number. A birthday gives you a piece of that, and a home address as well will help you to capture a customer's identity, which becomes a very important piece to the new marketing system and puzzle. So you might be thinking how you could be catching this information, and you may not even know it. And this is just a couple of different ways here. So capturing email addresses. Lots of businesses are capturing email addresses through third-party systems like MailChimp, Constant Contact, and I've actually seen a few in the market that are still using Excel spreadsheets on a Windows operating system next to their point of sale. Sales information comes from your point of sale, your POS system. It can come from your e-commerce provider, what you're selling online, or third-party businesses like Amazon, Grubhub, Seamless, eBay. Depends on what type of business you are, but if you're a QSR, quick service restaurant, some of these third-party providers might be generating and providing you with information about what customers are spending their money on. From a phone numbers perspective, we see people out now going towards the SMS marketing channels, and this is a wonderful channel to start building. It's something that AppCard also provides. The SMS channel is powerful in that it has an extremely high read rate. It's a scary statistic, but 9 out of 10 people will read a text message within 7 minutes of receiving it, which means that when you send a message to your customers to their mobile devices, 90% of them will get that message and they will read it almost instantaneously. Some platforms you may recognize, you may even be using today that help you with this are Slick Text, Easy Text, Nexmo, Trumpia, and some CRMs. I've seen people actually doing this with a CRM and taking opt-in information that way. Shopper purchase history can be captured and stored in your POS, depending on the point of sale system that you're currently using, and the e-commerce platform, depending on which one you're using as well, will give you shopper transaction history. So these are all the different ways that you today may be capturing some of these data points that we discussed. So what are the best ingredients? What do you really, really need out of a marketing system, out of a loyalty and rewards platform in order to generate a very effective personalized strategy? One, you're going to need the shopper's identity. You're going to need to know who it is that you're talking to, who it is that you're sending a text message or an email to. You're going to need a communication channel in addition to that. Text message and email would be two examples there. And transaction data. Transaction data is one of the most important things that you can capture about a customer. Transaction data will tell you what motivates each and every one of your customers to pull their wallet out and spend money at your business. These three pieces are the cake that you're trying to bake today. So doing this, capturing these three pieces, there's an easy way that this is done. AppCard is one of these platforms that allows you to capture all of these data points and use it for customer segmentation. A loyalty program is a very easy way for you to tell your customer, if you self-identify yourself using your email or your phone number when you're in my store before every purchase, I'm going to give you points, punches, or cash back in exchange for your identity, that data point about you. Now, if that program is connected to your point of sale, whatever point of sale you're using, we can then actually track the transaction from each customer, and we can marry that transaction information with that profile, that identity we've just captured through the loyalty element of the marketing system. And we now know who the customer is, and we have a running transaction history of what motivates them to pull their wallet out. And we can use that information to curate and personalize content to each and every one of them to incentivize 10% higher conversion rates from your marketing efforts. So just a little bit about how this technology works with our system. We do have a number of partnerships in the market, but we also have the ability, the unique ability in this generation of technology to work with almost any point of sale out on the market. So if you're on this call today and you have a point of sale, 99% chance that AppCard's technology is easy as plugging it in and getting ready to go. Now what we've done here in the middle is AppCard has a data capture device. One end of this device will plug into your point of sale. The other end of the device will plug into your thermal receipt printer, an Epson, Bixalon, Star TSP, Citizens, really any thermal receipt printer on the market. The way that this works is that what we learned is that of the 1,000 different POS systems that are on the market today, they all have one thing in common, surprisingly. They all send a transaction signal out to a thermal receipt printer in much the same way. And the reason that they do this is that unlike the POS industry, with over 1,000 different POS options for you to choose from, the thermal receipt printing industry is actually really, really small. There are 3 major brands on the market. There are Epsons, there are Bixalons, and there are Star TSPs. And there are a number of different generic versions of these 3 major brands, but those are the 3 major brands that most of you will be familiar with. Now, if you're a POS system and you don't design your system to be able to communicate with all 3 brands of thermal receipt printers so that you can print an itemized receipt with SKU information and price information, and you see a little device there. We have a touchscreen device that's customer facing. You will have your branding and your logos and your colors on this, and it will be a big box retail experience. Enter their phone number in the screen or swipe a plastic loyalty card, whichever you choose to use. We will recommend phone numbers, by the way. Then you're going to go back to business as usual, just like going into a big box retailer like Walmart or Target. And you're going to finish your transaction like normal. And as soon as that transaction is closed and paid for, that signal is going to go out. AppCard's data capture device is going to translate what they've purchased, how much they've spent, automatically award them points, punches, or cash back for their purchase, and will also text message a digital copy of their receipt as proof of purchase for them, at the bottom of which will tell them what they earned for their transaction that day. That receipt will also be stored in your new CRM so that you can go look up any customer's transaction history with proof of purchase in the form of a digital receipt. So now we're going to get into the real fun part. We're going to get into a strategy that you can employ very quickly using a system like this. We call it life cycle marketing, and I'm going to explain what that is now. So marketing strategies. Anybody who has taken a college course in business or marketing, maybe even economics, is probably familiar with the triangle on the right side of the screen. It's a buying funnel. What you're really looking to do with your marketing strategy is hit people with a message that incentivizes a purchase for them when they're at the bottom here, the decision and the action side, when they're ready to make a purchase. That's a very difficult thing to do. What life cycle marketing is it takes the idea of trying to hit somebody when they're ready to make a purchase and using data that you're pulling from your customer in the form of their identity and the actual products they're purchasing to determine when the best time to send that message is to get them when they're at the bottom of that funnel. So all of your products in retail and in some service industries will actually have average life cycles, meaning repurchase dates. So for leggings, we find that many people who buy leggings usually come and make a repurchase on average every 4 months. For maternity clothing, it could be at the end of the 9-month period. We know something about when they're going to need a different type of product. for athletic shirts. If you're a runner and you do 5 miles a day, 5 days a week, you're probably going to need to replace your running clothing every 6 months. Kids' socks and underwear, on average, every 4 months. Now, the beauty of life cycle marketing is that you don't need too much data to make this work. You need a customer's identity, and you simply need one product. We don't need too many data points to be able to personalize content to customers. It's a strategy you can employ before you even start doing a program like this. So to give you a couple of examples here, you can even get very granular with your product lines. So if you sell flip-flops, you might sell very high-end flip-flops that are $100 a pair. Or you also might sell some of the lower-end flip-flops that are $20, $30 a pair. Now, the $100 flip-flops might last 12 months on average. You buy a pair of really expensive flip-flops, and they'll last you 12 months. So what we would do in this case is we'd set up life cycle marketing automations. When a customer comes in and buys an expensive pair of flip-flops, 12 months later, if they haven't purchased another pair yet, they would automatically get an incentive to come in because they're very likely at the bottom of that funnel once again. Then on the less expensive flip-flops, those might need to be replaced every 4 months. So people who purchase those at the end of a 4-month cycle from their last purchase, if they have not yet repurchased that again, they would get an automation telling them to come back in with a small incentive to replace the less expensive flip-flops. And we've got a very good chance at this point that we're hitting that person right at the bottom of that buying funnel. So here are a couple of examples of different ways that we could set that up. We can do this by groups, or we can do this by individual products. Just a couple of different examples on the screen for you here. So running shoes, again, this is something that if you're an avid runner, you know that usually you're going to need to get these replaced every 4 to 6 months. Usually around month 6 is best to send these out. And what we do is we would send that runner a message saying, come get $5 off your next pair of running shoes. We give them an expiration date so that they need to feel a sense of urgency to come in. And it's very likely at this point that if this is a real runner, that they're gonna take advantage of an offer like this. For winter coats, this is an interesting one. So winter is seasonal. Obviously, winter is a season. But what we would do here is we would say anybody who's bought a winter coat this year, 12 months from now, from that purchase, if they haven't bought another winter coat from us yet, we're going to send them an incentive for 10% off of their next winter coat, because they may need to buy another winter coat. Now you can start thinking about this a little bit, but if you're talking about children's winter coats, those are probably going to need to be replaced on an annual basis, at least for the first 10 years there as they continue to grow. So that might be something else that we get a little bit more granular on when we start talking about seasonality of clothing. Dress shirts, just another quick and easy one to do. Dress shirts might need to be replaced if you're working in an office environment, maybe once every 4 months. So if we tag these in the system and a customer buys a dress shirt, a button-down shirt, and they don't buy another one for 4 months, the system would automatically reach out to that customer, give them an incentive to get another dress shirt. And we're very likely at this point to see a customer come back in because they are at that bottom of the buying funnel since their last purchase. So with a system like AppCard, lifecycle marketing is really what we would consider phase 1. You don't need too much to get that started. You simply need 2 data points. You need the customer's identity, and you need a purchase of a product or service that you know the life cycle of, or the average repurchase time for, which as retailers, you probably have this information all stored in your head today, and it's just something that we need to talk about during the consultation process and the kickoff. Now, that is phase 1, but phase 2 is really the evolution part. By month 6, working with a system like this, we will have gathered enough data points to do a very deep analytical dive with your customers and the information that we're getting out of there. We typically call phase 2 DNA marketing. It's where we really learn the DNA of the business itself, the customer base, the ebbs and flows, and how that works. And we start setting up additional automations and really diving into the basket analysis to inform us on what types of marketing strategies we can employ given the data that we're seeing. Month 12, 6 months later, after phase 2, we hit phase 3. Now, AppCard employs a neural network. Like I mentioned earlier, our neural network is nicknamed Pinky. And Pinky is an artificial intelligence. And during the first 12 months on the platform, Pinky is actually going to be monitoring each and every one of your customers participating in the loyalty and rewards platform, looking at their transaction history and their behavior patterns, and starting to predict their next likely purchase. And a great example of this might be that Andrew comes in and he purchases a pair of running shoes on average every 186 days. Okay, so Pinky now decides that on average I should be making a purchase every 186 days. If I don't show up on the 186th day, on the morning of the 187th day, Pinky would automatically reach out to me and me alone with an incentive and an offer to come back in and make my repurchase happen. So Pinky will actually learn every individual customer's behavior patterns and predict their next likely purchase throughout the first 12 months. And then it's going to start trying to corral customers in to keep those buying cycles steady. And it's going to do it at a time that we know that we have seen, or that Pinky has seen, these repurchases happen. Really takes the guesswork out of everything that you need to do from a marketing perspective. It does take about 12 months to get sufficient data to make this very accurate. Now, the next piece as a business, when you're looking at investing in marketing systems, is to think about how you're going to calculate your return on investment or your ROI. And this next section will show you how AppCard does that in conjunction with all of the data and all of the different periods that we'll go through during the evolution of your marketing systems. So proving marketing ROI. What we can do is we can go in and we can say we want to target and segment all customers who purchased a pair of tennis shoes. In this scenario, what we're seeing is that 3,000 people have purchased a pair of tennis shoes. We saw 378 of those 3,000 people come back in, and we were able to track that they spent $4,719 as a result. So we can now peg $4,719 back to a campaign or a marketing message that you sent targeting people that have purchased tennis shoes. Now, we're able to do that because AppCard is a system that is connected to your point of sale, and we capture a plethora of different data points. So to make this happen, the loyalty program is giving us the customer's identity. The POS is telling us what each customer likes to spend their money on, so we know what their interests are, and we can personalize content like this and send tennis shoe purchasers a message about tennis shoes. And then when we send that message, we can track how many of the people out of the 3,000 targeted came back in, made a purchase, and through that point of sale, we can actually then calculate how much they spent as a result of the marketing system itself. Now, for all of you naysayers out there in the world of marketing, and of course, those of you that would say that loyalty and reward systems are just discounting products, believe me, I've heard that a million times before. You don't have to worry about that now. So AppCard also employs the use of control groups. And we're going to take you back to 10th grade chemistry class now and ask you to think about that experiment where you learned about control groups and they said, okay, we want to see what happens if we introduce variable A to this experiment. We need to put a control group aside that variable A will not affect, and then we'll measure the difference between the two groups, those that had the influence and those that did not. So going back to the last slide, if you can remember that far back for me, if we were to send 3,000 customers or identify 3,000 customers who purchased tennis shoes, and we were to personalize a message saying, you should come in and buy a pair of tennis shoes. In this scenario, what we would do is we would set up a 10% control group. So 10% of those 3,000 people that like to buy tennis shoes, or 300 of them, would receive no marketing influence to come into the store and make a purchase. 2,700 would receive that. And in the results that we'll show you shortly, you'll actually be able to see how much the people spent that got the personalized content versus those that matched them profile for profile, but did not get an incentive to come in. And it will actually tell you the lift between the spend that each group had. So you'll be able to not only say that the 2,700 people spent $4,700, but that's 12% more than the 300 people that were in the control group. So you can actually prove all the way down to the penny ROI and what influence your marketing efforts have actually had on your customer base and driving revenue back into the business. Let's talk a little bit about Pinky at this point, a little bit more in depth now. So we've already gone through a little bit of this. Pinky is the nickname for an AI system composed of artificial neural networks and other machine learning approaches, which are orchestrated and optimized via reinforced learning. So what this really means is that Pinky is an autonomous system that learns customer behavior and decides when the best time to send each customer messages based on their own individual behavior patterns. It's a little creepy, I know, but that's the way that the world is going today. Now, Pinky takes a lot of different things into consideration. So Pinky is actually is hooked into the Weather Channel. So Pinky will take into consideration how the weather affects customers' behavior around your business, meaning maybe when it rains out, you see a spike on average of 15%. That could be the case. Pinky's also hooked into the calendar. So Pinky takes the days of the week into consideration, as well as the holidays and how holidays impact your revenue. These are also two very good points to think about as to why it takes about 12 months before we turn Pinky on and let Pinky take control of the marketing side of the platform. Really needs to understand how Christmas affects your revenue, or how a rainy day or a cold day affects people's ability to get to your store, or even go onto your e-commerce site. So using AI to optimize marketing, what we've found is that Pinky becomes so accurate in identifying each individual customer's next likely purchase and reaching out to them, that about 68% of people who receive a message from Pinky based on these data points actually come back in as a result. An incredible number there, 68%. It's almost unbelievable. But if you think about how this works, it makes a lot of sense. Pinky is literally taking that triangle, that buying funnel, watching your customer make purchases and transactions and trips to your store and through your e-commerce platform all year long, and identifying when they're very likely to need specific types of products or services from you, and when to send a message to hopefully make them convert. 68% of the time, that's actually working. So to start wrapping this up just a little bit here, what AppCard is it's a system. It takes the idea of having siloed elements to a marketing strategy, like a single platform for email that doesn't communicate with your texting platform, that doesn't communicate with your CRM or your loyalty program. And it takes that kind of old school model of marketing away, and it ties them into a symbiotic relationship where the loyalty program identifies the customer's identity, the POS will tell you what that customer likes, and the email system attached to the CRM and the text messaging platform allow you to take that identity and that transaction information and curate personalized content, all from one single platform. Each element makes the other element stronger. So for your customer, there is a mobile application that they can download and they can use to track their points, punches, and their digital receipts. It's important to note at this point in time that we consider this piece of the platform a nice to have, not a need to have. There was this trend in the market a few years ago where a lot of retailers, a lot of quick service restaurants, everybody thought that they needed to build their own branded mobile application that customers would download it, you'd have your logo on their phone, and it would really incentivize loyalty. Turned out to be wrong. Only about 30% of people will actually download a mobile application as a precursor to participation in a loyalty and rewards program, which means that you're effectively, by forcing a mobile application as part of your program onto people, you're alienating 70% of your customer base from even participating or signing up in the first place. Now, the mobile application is useful for those that want it, and 30% of customers statistically will download it. And of course, that is a statistically relevant amount of customers. So you will have access to providing a mobile application for your customers to download and use. But we consider it a barrier to entry, so it's a nice to have, not a need to have. If they'd like to download it, excellent. If not, they don't need to. So that is our presentation today. Again, I'm Andrew Ostroff. I'm our VP of Sales, and I run our account management and marketing department. And I'm going to see if there are any questions at this point that I might be able to answer. Here we go. All right. Well, it looks like I was pretty thorough. I don't see any questions on the board at this point in time. What we're going to do is we're going to email out a copy of this webinar video to all of you, so you have it to go back and review. And of course, my information is right here on the page. My email address is andrew@appcard.com. So feel free to send me an email at your leisure. Otherwise, I'll probably reach out and just say hello to each and every one of you that attended today. Thank you very much for attending. Really appreciate it. We have another webinar that we'll be doing on the next phase of marketing, that DNA marketing that I had mentioned earlier, in about a month from now. And we'll also email out an invitation to you for that one. Thank you, and have a great afternoon.